Welcome to the March 19th, 2017 edition of the Mac Forum video chat. Hope you had a good Sunday and enjoyed your weekend. First of all, I do want to start out the week on a kind of low note. The rock and roll world, and I know we have a lot of rock fans in the forum, is mourning the passing of Chuck Berry, and want to pass out to those of you who are fans. Keep a good thought, and hope that you're playing a couple of good Chuck Berry tunes in the next few days. One of my personal favorites, No Particular Place to Go, and that was, I think, that's not the one that most people pick. As you know, most people pick Johnny B. Good, but what's sticking in my head today is No Particular Place to Go for some reason. So on a more positive note, let's get started right into the forum information. First of all, welcome to our newest member, Camp BRD. I know we've had several new members this week, joined this week. Earlier, when I checked the show notes, we had a different person in the show note, and so in the show notes I'll probably put both names. My apologies if I don't remember who the original name was when I checked earlier. We got the show started and then had a drop call connection with Google and YouTube, so I'll go ahead and record this one as a QuickTime screencast and then upload it in just a moment. I want to apologize to you for last week. We had quite a few things going on here in the broadcast bunker, and real life kind of got in and interfered with podcasts. So we'll take care of that this week. And I've got a lot of information. About 99% of this is stuff that would have been included in the show last week anyway. So here we go. After the welcome of the new member, let's get right on into the forum and see what we find going on this week. First of all, member Rad Dave has posted, there's been a lot of cybersecurity concern recently with some of the information about smart devices such as smart TV sets being able to scoop up information and some conversation, bits and pieces of conversation that users perhaps would not necessarily want to be become knowledge. What seems to be happening here in some cases is that in addition to the WikiLeaks article which talked about intelligence agencies spying on people, one of the things that brought this into play is a number of users reporting that their Alexa gizmos tried to order stuff from Amazon as it overheard users in the room talking about things like playhouses for dolls and everything. And it seems like the reason that this is happening is because in order for these devices to work by voice activation, they're basically scooping up information and then parsing it out for things that you might want it to do. And with regard to things like Alexa and other services that allow you to purchase things based on voice command, I recommend that you put a PIN code on that type of activity. Yes, I know that adds one more step, but it means that the device can't accidentally order something just because your child says something about wanting a new game or wanting a new dollhouse, etc., etc., etc. And in the article, which is a summary of USA Today, the thread that Dave started is very interesting, has a lot of good information. The USA Today article that he referenced in the thread is a good one for those of you that do not consider yourself tech savvy, because it doesn't go into excruciating detail. It basically gives you some general principles to follow without recommending specific software and things of that nature. Things like don't get phished. If you don't know what phishing is, it explains it in just a little bit without going into too much detail. Installing a modern OS. And on the Mac, that's important because Safari does not get updated as a general rule until you update the OS. So for example, if you're still running 10.6.8 or 10.7, that browser has not been updated in quite some time. There haven't been security updates for that OS in quite some time. So you might want to think about that. And as I say, this gives you some very general information. The thread has some other good recommendations and a few things that you might find helpful. Alright, another one that came up this week, member Matt Gig has a thread going that he started, and I promised that I would mention this thread in the show when I answered another question that he posted today. This thread deals with deleting personal information without reformatting the drive. And yes, it can be done. He has a link to a video that appeared on YouTube. It's for an older version of the operating system, but it still works. And I'm going to show you what this video advocates, because this is one way to make sure that you get rid of most of your security information on a drive. Alright, let's assume that you're about to pass your Mac on to someone or sell it or whatever it is that you're planning on doing. Now, if I were selling this or something of that nature, I probably would zero it out with a clean install, because technically you don't have the right to pass those applications on to someone else. But if you just want to make sure that you're getting rid of sensitive user information, let's say you're planning on keeping the machine or whatever, or you maybe you have the information, you want to give the Mac to the kids to use, here's a way to get rid of a user account and the information that's in a user account. First thing you do, you launch System Preferences. You're going to go to Users and Groups. Now, you've got to do this from an administrator account, and you cannot do it from the account that you want to delete. So, for example, as you can see right now, I'm in my main account, and I could not delete this account right now following this procedure. The OS will not let me do it. Alright, now I generally keep this preference pane locked. I'm going to click on the padlock to enter my password, my administrator password. You won't be seeing that. It's blocked out as usual. Alright, now from this point on, here's what I need to do. I can't delete this account because it is the account that I'm working in. I would also not be able to delete this account if it were the only admin account. Okay? MacOS requires at least one admin account to be operational. I don't think that's changed recently. Now, I'm going to leave these other administrator accounts alone because they have things in them that I want to keep. As you can see, I have two standard accounts here. The trouble account has some stuff that I know I want to keep. I'm not going to delete that right now. I'm going to go to this test account that I created just before the show, just for demonstration purposes. Let's assume that's the one I want to delete. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click right here where this little minus symbol is, and a dialog is going to appear, and it's asking me if I want to save the contents of this home folder, of this test user home folder, to a disk image. That's a good idea if I think I might need the information. Okay? And I can say don't change the home folder. In other words, leave it alone. Don't make any changes. But in my case, I want to delete that home folder. Now it's already given me the warning. I'm going to click delete user, and I'm going to take one last check to make sure I'm in the right account, and it's going to delete it. Now, in my case, it did that very, very quickly because there was nothing in that account, literally nothing. But if there were something there, if I had a lot of software installed inside the user account or something of that nature, it would take a little bit of time, but it's relatively quick if you have a modern Mac. let's just take a look. I'm going to duck back here, duck back to the Finder for a second. I'm going to take a look, and you'll see when I look at my user folder, that test account that I created is gone. Now, there are two things that you need to remember about this. First of all, anything inside that user folder is gone. If you were gonna restore anything and you hadn't made a disk image, you would probably best be served to do that from Time Machine Backup or some other backup. And also, any application that you had installed in that user's account, say you install something just for that user, it's now gone. The other applications are left alone. That's a reasonably good way to approach things. Now, if you were going to pass this thing on to a stranger, I probably would suggest to you that you go ahead and erase the drive. Apple would like it if you erase it and put it back to the OS that came with the machine. That way the owner gets basically a clean start. And speaking of Apple's recommendations, here are some things that they would like to have us remember when we are in the process of moving stuff to a new Mac and getting ready to sell or give away our old Mac. The first thing to do is create a backup. Backup anything that's important to you, and make sure that that backup, check the data integrity, check some of that data, make sure it's loaded before you do anything else. Now, this assumes that you're going to get rid of the old computer. What you want to do is sign out of your iTunes account, and it tells you how to do that in the page. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. Also talks about deauthorizing your computer for iTunes. Sign out of iCloud, FaceTime, and all of those, iMessage, all of those things that are dependent on your iCloud account. And then lastly, quite frequently people like to reformat and reinstall the OS. And the reason for that is, you'll see a lot of times on eBay, somebody will be selling a Mac and they'll say Microsoft Office included, Photoshop included, etc., etc., etc. The problem with that is technically most software licenses are done in such a way that when you get rid of, if you purchase the software, when you get rid of the Mac, you do not have the right to transfer that to someone else without first giving up your rights to that software. In other words, both of you cannot be using the software. And in cases of some software, when that user tries to go on and activate with a new name, it's not going to activate because of that. Some of this software has gotten very sophisticated about checking for that kind of information. Okay, that's enough about passing on your Mac. I know if you're like me, you tend to hang on to them until they're on their last legs. I know by the time I try to erase a Mac, it's probably long past the point where it's of any use to somebody. All right, the next one, member Dave52. Let me just check my notes here. Yes, I was right. It's member Dave52 is looking for a way to find out the passwords that are stored on a Mac. Okay, and one of the things that you can do, I'm going to open up a Finder window here. The best place to do that, I'm going to go into the Applications folder. I'm going to scroll through my apps, and I'm going to look down until I get to, I've got my folders at the top of this window. So I'm going to scroll up to Utilities. And what I'm looking for is a file here called Keychain Access. And here it is right here. When I click on this, I see a list of passwords and everything. To make any kind of changes, I need to enter my administrator password. Okay? If you've never used this particular utility, and I don't use it very often, if you've never used this particular utility, I'm going to link you to an article in Macworld. This is from Christopher Breen. Even though it's from 2012, the information is still useful because the design and structure of the program hasn't really changed significantly. And it'll walk you through the process, some of the things that you can do with regard to passwords. So day 52, there's your answer. I did post a forum thread, post a response to your thread earlier today. All right, this I suppose kind of goes along with something that we were when we were talking about smart devices and cybersecurity. This is from Stephen Lawson. As you can see, it's Tech Connect. And this is a review of an article that summarizes a Gartner survey that was conducted in the latter half of 2016. Nearly 100,000 residents from the UK, the United States, and Australia. And one of the findings is that 2/3 of the consumers were worried about these smart homes where everything is internet aware and devices listening in on their conversations. Now, people who are proponents of this type of technology point out that if you've got one of these internet aware houses with smart appliances all interconnected, you could do things like have the thermostat learn when you come home so that it turns on your heating or AC unit a little bit before you come home, rather than having the thing run the entire day while you're away from home. You know, I think I saw an ad for a refrigerator recently that said that you could use your smartphone to look inside the refrigerator and see if you have a certain thing. You know, you get to the grocery store and you're not sure if you're about to run out of milk. You could use the internet and your smartphone to look inside this fridge and see if you have. Well, apparently a lot of our users don't like that idea, and privacy is a concern about that, as well as some other things. So this is a good overview of how people seem to feel about that right now. Perhaps as this technology matures a little bit and security gets a little bit better, more and more people will be interested in it. All right, this is something that I saw. My wife sent me this from Fox, courtesy, as you can see, Fox's Tech News. And this involves something with Apple iOS 10.3 update, which has been out for a little while now. And the headline says you could lose your data if you do not perform a backup. Now, I have mixed feelings about this headline, because that's true for almost anything that you do when you update an operating system, whether it be Mac, Android, iOS, Windows, whatever it is. An update always carries the possibility of a loss of data. In this case, when you read the article, you discover that what's happening is, as a part of the update, the low-level formatting that it's used, and the formatting, think about the formatting similar to the lines on a parking lot, so that you know where you're parked. It's how the spaces are allocated on a storage device. And it's the directory structure that lets the OS know where bits and pieces of information are. Well, because they're changing that structure a little bit, if you don't run a backup first, what can happen is if anything goes wrong in the update, your data is borked, and you basically have to start from scratch. Start from whenever your most recent backup was. You could reload from a recent backup. That's kind of, it's not a pain, but if you're not one to back up your data frequently, then you need to be aware of that. And I personally, I can tell you, I have not had an iPhone update bork up for me, but it's good practice to conduct a backup anyway, particularly if you happen to be one of these folks like I am that's running one of the public betas whenever they come out. So that's just a little caveat to you. Don't say I didn't warn you if your data gets borked up when you do this update without backing up. All right, Now, um, this article, this is one of two things that I linked to from Kurt the iTunes guy this week. I'm not going to walk through the entire article, but I will say this particular one, this first one, deals with various issues about audiobook playback. Okay, several issues that are solved or addressed in how you organize audiobooks and make sure that they, a couple of other things with audiobooks. So I'll have a link to that. You'll definitely want to check it out and see if there's any information there that can be useful to you. One addresses some tagging issues, how to identify books that you've already read, and he has some thoughts on several of these issues, putting audiobooks in the correct order when they come from CDs, things of that nature. And then the next one, this comes from, let's see, this is Josh Centers over at Tidbits. Thank you, Adam and Tanya, for a great, Adam and Tanya Inks, for a great site with some great information. I don't read as often as I used to. I promise I will get back to reading this site on a regular basis because they always have a lot of good information. In this case, writing for Tidbits, Josh Centers is talking about something that he refers to as MacOS hidden treasures. And the entire article is about the dock and how to use the dock, things that you can do with the dock. A good bit of it is things that are well known to long-time Mac users. But if you're new to the Mac, it's worth a look. Even if you're an old hand at the Mac, there may be a tidbit of information here and there that you can use. One little tidbit, even for long-time Mac users, and I had planned to demonstrate this, but when I went to do a screen recording of it earlier, I discovered that this is not quite working on my Mac right now, and I'm not sure what the issue is. It involves handoff. Now, handoff is a neat little feature that's been in, if you've got a recent iPhone, I believe it started with 5 and above, and you're running a recent version of the OS, if you're running Sierra and you're running a recent version of iPhone OS, you'll notice that when handoff is operative, when you've got handoff turned on your iPhone, when you pull up to your Mac and you look in the dock, as you can see from the picture on this web page, there are two Safari icons. Here is the normal one, okay? I'm going to see if this will blow up a little bit, but here is the normal Safari icon, and then here is a Safari icon with a little iPhone off to the side over at the far left of the dock. What that means is if I click right there, I can pick up with whatever page is open on Safari on my iPhone. I can kind of pick up where I left off. Now, I don't have that active right now. I'm having some issues with it, and I haven't worked them all out. But if I had that working right now, it would be right about here. Whatever I have active on my iPhone would pop up. I could click on it and it would pop up. That's something that I had not noticed about the dock. Of course, you can switch apps. You can switch all kinds of things. There you can see the little blow up that I showed you. See how the little iPhone icon is there, and then over here is the regular Safari icon. So that's an idea of what you'll be looking for. And of course, you can switch apps from the dock. You can quit an app, force quit an app, relaunch the Finder, all kinds of things that you can do from the dock. So this is a good article to approach that and get some ideas about whether you're using the dock to its fullest potential. Hence the title, Dominate the Dock. Alright, and then finally, I want to get to, last week I promised you that I was going to start talking about some of the more hidden and less understood perhaps features of the OS. And here's one of them, and it has to do with data detectors. Data detectors are little tidbits of information that you can read in a message, an email message, a iPhone, if you've got your iMessage thing connected. When you get a message through iMessage, data detectors will kick in. And let me show you what that can mean. Now, I sent myself an iMessage earlier from my phone on one of my accounts to my Mac. Okay, now as you can see, I sent myself a couple of versions of the show notes here, but don't pay attention to that. That's not where data detectors kick in. Where data detectors kick in, notice that I have something here that says March 20, 2017. When I click on that, because it's a date, calendar will open to that event. Okay? And I can choose to add that event to my calendar. I can add details about it. There's no event there already. It's a new event. So I could add information. I could add it to my calendar, or I can click cancel. Okay? That's how it would handle a date. If I click here on address, and I just put in Apple's address just for this example, 1 Infinite Loop, Cupertino, California, Maps opens up. In some cases, it will open contact names. So there's all kinds of things that, and I could make this a new contact card, or I can add it to an existing card. I could also open this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to click right there, and it's going to open up that location in Maps. And I can do all the things that I normally would do with Maps. Now, you can pass email addresses. If I had put an email address in this entry, and I click on it, it would open Mail with that person's email address in place, and all I have to do is finish composing the message. This is something that's been around the OS for a while, and the reason it came to mind last week is Kirk McLaren has on his Kirkville website an indication that the Mac can now parse data detectors that contain things like album titles and things of that nature. I have not quite gotten that to work, but it's just one more example of something that you can do with data detectors. It cuts out a step in the sense that, before data detectors came into play, I would have to recognize something as an email address, open my email client, and paste the address in or type the address in. All of those steps are cut out now. And you can, from this article that I linked to, they have little videos that explains what data detectors are and how you can use them. As you can see, it's aware of addresses. It's also aware of things like phone numbers, and you can add those to contacts. All kinds of different information. It's aware of web addresses. All of those things become useful to you when you get them in an event. You just tap on them and the appropriate program will open. And so that's something that I thought you might appreciate knowing a little bit more about. I'll also have a link to Kurt's message about data detectors being able to parse the things such as album titles and the like in iTunes, and I hope that you'll find that little bit of information useful. Well, that's going to just about bookend it for this week, guys. A lot of stuff in there, just quite a bit of stuff that got jammed into this show. Hope that you enjoyed it and hope that you found some useful information. Coming up on next week's show, we're going to take a look at another hidden, or shall we say underutilized feature of OS 10, of the Mac OS, And at this point, I haven't decided which one it will be, although I'm leaning in the direction of smart folders and some of the smart search features that are built into OS X to help you find things. You know, in the old days of computing, you kind of had to remember where you stored something on your drive. Well, because of smart searching, that's less true now than it used to be. It's not a bad idea to know where stuff is on your drive, but smart search can make that a lot easier for you. So we'll take a look at that probably next week. And until then, I hope that you've enjoyed the information this week. I've certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday. And this is your host, Sylvester Rock, aka Sly Dude. And before I leave this week, I want to give a special shout out to Member Backlighting. He started a thread thanking me for some of the things that I've been involved with in the forum, and numerous other members chimed in with similar sentiments. And I want to say thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. It's nice to know that the hard work is appreciated, and I have to tell you, I really enjoy doing it. And also to the members, one shout out to the membership. Being a moderator on this forum is a piece of cake for the most part, because you guys pretty much police yourselves, you know. So hopefully we'll keep things going, and I'll try to make sure that my answers are correct and accurate. And I'm sure the other forum mods and admins will correct me when I'm wrong. And every once in a while, something gets in there that I didn't know. I'm always learning new things, both from the other moderators, admins, and from the members. So keep that information coming, keep the questions coming. And until next week, this is your host, Sylvester Rock, aka Sly Dude. I'll see you in the forum.